Welcome to the Marketing Funnel Show, episode number 18. Today, we're talking open loops, what they are, and why you are missing out if you don't use them. Welcome to the Marketing Funnel Show. I'm your host, Michelle Evans, and this is the podcast for coaches, experts, and online business owners to learn how to go from simply surviving to sold out using the power of marketing funnels. All right, let's jump into today's show. Well, hello and welcome to today's show. We are continuing our discussion about how to make Facebook ads work really well for your business. If you didn't listen to episodes number 16 and 17 over the last couple of weeks where I go through the overall strategy and the warm-up content, you may want to go back and listen to those episodes first. But if you did listen to those episodes, let's do a super quick recap of where we are, and then we'll dive into today's show. So first, if you haven't downloaded it already, hop on over to today's show notes to download the PDF with the Facebook Ads Strategy visual so you can follow along. Just go to themarketingfunnelshow.com/18, just the number 18, to download your copy. So in episode number 16, we talked about how to make Facebook ads work for you, and that you need a holistic 3-part system that works with the other things you're doing in your marketing funnel. That 3-part system is, in part 1, it's the warm-up. In part 2, we talked about inviting them in. And in part 3, it's offer more. So last week in episode number 17, we talked about the warm-up content and how you can really make that work for you. So today, let's talk a bit more about what kind of content you want to include in part 2, invite them in. It's really important because a lot of people think, I'm just going to slap up an opt-in ad. Like, I'm just going to put up my PDF or my quiz or my webinar or, whatever you have, a video, I don't know. And people are going to opt in, and we're all going to go, skipping off into the sunset, and everything's going to be great. I got to tell you, so I have had so many Facebook ad clients over the years. And I have had a lot who have come to me after either running their own ads and they think that they're doing something majorly wrong, or they've worked with somebody else and they're not happy with the results or whatever. And they come to me, and as I'm doing a little review of their ad account before taking them on, a lot of times they've completely skipped over step 1. They have never ever even thought of warming up their audience. They're like, why would I waste money, time, and effort warming people up? Why wouldn't I just have them opt in? And I'm like, you don't understand. If you don't warm them up, when they opt in, they're going to forget who you are. They're going to ignore you. They're not even going to open their email. And I know this for a fact. I know it because I've tested it with myself. I've tested it with thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars worth of ads. I mean, thousands and thousands of opt-ins and just tons and tons and tons of people. I know. And so, let's dive into, so go back and listen to that content, because warm-up content doesn't have to be hard. It doesn't have to be expensive, but it is majorly critical in making your Facebook ad content work, and really in making your overall marketing funnel work if you're going to use ads in your funnel. So let's start with today, the invite them in content. So in invite them in, this is actually where you're asking them to opt in. So you've already warmed them up. We're not going to skip over part 1, right? You're not just going to go straight to part 2 of inviting them in. Because when you take that shortcut, you're actually not taking a shortcut. It might seem like you are. It might seem like you're like, I don't need to worry about that warm-up content. I can just go straight to getting people to opt in. But I'm just going to tell you, because I have seen it, people will opt in. They will. You will see people, opting in for your webinar and then not showing up. Opting in for your quiz and then never doing anything else, never opening your emails, never responding to anything, never buying anything from you. You will see people downloading your freebie and or opting in for your freebie and maybe never even downloading it. You will see people opting in and maybe never even confirming their email. It's just not worth it. You got to warm them up. Anyway, I will get off my warm-up soapbox. Let's talk about the goal of today's content. So the invite them in content. The goal is to become even more trusted to them. You also really want to boost your authority, your relatability, and especially your relatability around what your audience's current situation is, what their current pain is, what they're currently working through, what they're currently looking for. They need to know that you understand their situation and that you can help them out of it. They need to know that you're not perfect, that you won't judge them, that maybe you've walked this path or that you've helped other people walk this path, and that you're really approachable. They also need to know that you're knowledgeable, but not, a lot of people really make the mistake in this section of trying to prove how smart they are, and I've made this mistake too. It's called The Curse of Knowledge, and there's a great book by Chip and Dan Heath called Made to Stick. And they have a chapter in there that's all on the curse of knowledge and how when you try to prove to people how smart you are, you just turn them off because you're talking way over their head and they're like, I can't relate to you. They won't say those words, but in their heads, they're just like, I don't understand what you're talking about. And clearly I'm not smart enough for you, so I'm going to move along. So don't try to prove to them how smart you are. Try to relate to them through story, through situations, through your own personality. It's the people who have the hardest time in this are the ones that are so uptight and so worried about coming off as quote unquote professional or quote unquote buttoned up, because and I get it, like that, especially when I was coming off of my corporate gig at Microsoft. It was almost impossible for me not to come off that way. I really struggled to make that transition myself. So, I'm not pointing the finger at you. I'm pointing lots of fingers back at myself too. I have to remember this myself. And so, just try to remember, okay, I have to be relatable. What are some stories that I can tell? So, for example, I once had a client who had paid a lot of money to somebody to create a funnel for her. She had this great quiz that was so irresistible to her target audience, just absolutely irresistible. It was like gangbusters, just flew off the Facebook shelf, right? People would click on that bad boy and opt in at such a high rate. She was getting opt-ins for a ridiculously low amount. Crazy low. But what we found is that these people were not converting into anything. Like, she was building up this list of a list. They weren't doing anything. They weren't wanting to get on calls with her. The very few people that did get on calls were broke. She was like, okay, I'm going to try to launch a course that was like crickets. And I just said, we got to stop with this, list building drug. Like, it's just not working. We got to relook at your funnel. And that's when I really started putting my foot down about no opt-in ads without warm-up content and no opt-in ads without follow-up content, because it really was disheartening to see this. And it was hard for this business owner too, because, she had this asset that people were like chomping at the bit to get. And it literally was like drugs. Like, we could throw it out there with any budget number and people would flock to it like crazy. But the problem is that an email list alone does not make a business, right? If it's not converting into anything else, who cares if your Facebook ads are converting at 25 cents? Who cares? Because I would rather pay $5 for a great lead that wants to do business with me than 25 cents for a whole bunch of people who just want to quiz results. And that's the honest to goodness truth. And you may be sitting there thinking, yeah, but Michelle, I have, 25 people on my list. I would love to get, 1,000 people on my list for $250. Well, is that true? Because you're going to have to pay for those people to be on your email list. And if they don't open any of your emails, they never respond to a dang thing you do. And when you do, happen to get maybe 2 of them on the phone and they just are like, who are you again? What are you about? Why are we talking? Like, what's this? It's disheartening. And so I just want to reiterate that this, inviting them in isn't just about getting that click and that opt-in. It's about positioning you as a person who gets them, as an authority, as somebody who can help them out of their current situation. Like, it's really important to have an ecosystem around your ads and not just worry about, I need the cheapest clicks and cheapest opt-ins possible. No, you don't. You need to get people perfectly primed and positioned. That's a lot of P's in a row. People perfectly primed and positioned who are chomping at the bit to work with you. That's way more valuable than being like, I need, 2-cent clicks and I need 25-cent opt-ins. Because if those people turn into nothing, who cares how much you paid for them, right? So so in this phase, I need you to really think about how can I boost my authority? How can I boost my relatability? How can I help them see me as an expert, but a really approachable, relatable expert that they want in their life, that they want to pay attention to, that they are like, I think he or she has something that I need to know more about. That's when you know that this invite them in content is really working well. That's when you see that you have people sticking around for 75% to 95% of your videos over and over again. That's when you see that people are saving your videos and commenting on them and sharing them and engaging with them. That's when you see that people are not just clicking through to your blog post, but spending 10 minutes on your site really reading through it. That's when you see them opting in for your freebie, and then not just opting in, but responding to your first email where it says, hey, tell me your goal or answer this question for me. That's when you know that you've done a great job in this. And so one of the ways to really, really do this is to pump the heck out of their curiosity. So you need to get really, really up close and personal with something called open loops and use them not just in your ads, but also in your supporting marketing funnel. What's an open loop, you ask? Well, I will tell you in just a minute. But first, let me tell you why curiosity is so massively critical right now. If you want to dive deep into academic research, which, is a snooze fest, you're going to find a ton of writing, a ton of research, a ton of studies, a ton of all sorts of stuff on the psychology of curiosity, because it is such a critical influence on human behavior. And you don't need to take any psychology courses to kind of have a, yeah, that makes sense moment. I mean, think about it. If we didn't have curiosity, we'd still basically be laying in our cribs all day waiting for someone to feed us, right? And we all probably have a thing or two that we've done in our past that we're not that proud of, that was driven purely by our insane need to just know what it was all about, right? Please tell me I'm not the only one that did something crazy in my youth because of curiosity. Well, curiosity goes a long way in our marketing too, when we use it in the right way. I mean, we don't, want to be dangling dangerous things in front of people, but one of my favorite ways to do this is to create something called an information gap. Remember when I told you that you needed to get up close and personal with open loops, and then I didn't tell you what an open loop actually was? Yeah, that's an information gap. An open loop is just a cooler name for it. So what you want people saying to themselves is something like, tell me more. What is it? That can't be true. How can that be true? Can this really be possible? What does that mean? I've got to know the answer. Like, you want them to be like, okay, give me what's the down low here, right? Your best bet here is to use words, phrases, and questions that start to challenge preconceived ideas about people, places, and things that they take for granted in their everyday existence. That's how you start to open information gaps. It's like, kind of interrupting their normally scheduled programming that's going on in their heads, right? You want to be really careful not to do this so much that it becomes, yucky and clickbaity. But you want to do it enough that it becomes kind of, like adrenaline-y. Like, ooh, what's that about? Like, ooh, tell me more, right? My favorite way to do this is by following the famous copywriting formula, or maybe the not so famous, maybe only the marketing nerd famous copywriting formula called PACE-UP. It's problem, agitation, solution, outcome, and problem. And I will put this together into a download that you can get at today's show notes. So you can just go to themarketingfunnelshow.com/18, and I'll put this into a download for you. So, if you're exercising or driving around or whatever, you can just download this and not have to worry about it. And what happens is that you open this with a problem, you agitate it, you make it worse. So you describe a problem, then you make it worse and this is how you become relatable, right? This is how you show that you understand what your people are experiencing, what they're going through. Then you show a solution, just like a little tidbit. The solution is how you show that you know your stuff. Like, this is how you show that, all right, like I'm an expert in this, and I can give you a little tidbit to get out of this. And then an outcome, and then you open that problem, the next problem. But you're not going to keep going. You just leave that problem open, right? It's a really great way to have open loops. And if you do it in your ads, that problem that you open at the end, well, if they click through that ad, maybe they go to a blog post where they read more about how to solve that problem. Or maybe they go to a video where you're telling them about how to solve that problem. Or maybe they go to your webinar where they learn how to solve that problem. But they're so hooked at that point that they almost can't look away, right? It's like, I gotta figure out, like, what's he talking about? What's she talking about? How can I get the answer to this? And it's just a different way to use your Facebook ads, to use your funnel, to use your expertise, to use how you can relate to people, to attract an audience that's like, okay, tell me more. Like, I want to hear more. But not like fire hosing them with all your information. So they're like, okay, now you've told me too much and I can't take anymore, right? This is a way to drip feed information where they're like continuing to lean forward and saying, okay, give me more. All right, a little more. Okay, I'm still curious. Give me a little more. And it helps to keep them engaged throughout your Facebook ads, throughout your funnel. And it's just a beautiful way to really set you up as somebody that they want to pay attention to. So if you did a series of maybe 2, 3, 4, 5 of these ads in the middle of your funnel to warm up your audience. And maybe some of them are for free stuff. Maybe some of them are for little paid things. You can kind of mix and match them. But you're proving to your audience that you know your stuff, that you're positioned in their mind as the go-to expert, that this is really important, the go-to expert that they can't ignore. Like, you're not just another person spouting off about, whatever you talk about. You're not just another talking head. You're not just another sponsored person in their newsfeed. You're somebody that kind of gets them these little adrenaline hits that they can't ignore. That's a really different approach to Facebook ads. Partner that with a video or a blog post, again, that goes deep into solving a specific challenge and then just continues to use those open loops. And oh my goodness, have you set the stage for your sale? And you've gone a long way to make sure that things are in line to support whatever your ultimate Facebook ad goals are. So, I just described a lot of stuff. And I know, especially the first time I talk about this, when I'm talking with one-on-one Facebook ad clients or even my funnel clients, sometimes it can be a little bit overwhelming. You might want to go back and listen to this again. And I'm going to, continue talking about this kind of stuff because this is actually the stuff that a lot of people don't talk about. They talk about like, do your ads, or get your ads out there, but not about the intention behind your ads and how you set yourself up as an expert, not just with your ads, but with your marketing funnel, how you hook and connect with your audience in a way that they're like, tell me more, and they're paying attention to you. And in a way that feels really good and really, really like you're able to serve them because they want to hear more. That's a really different way to approach Facebook ads than just hitting boost on a, like on a quote or your latest opt-in or just running an ad for your webinar. And you can see that, when people show up to your webinar, first of all, they're going to show up in higher numbers, but second of all, they're going to show up a heck of a lot more engaged because they're so pre-framed, they're so ready to to get that curiosity information gap, to get that solved, that they're just going to be paying attention to what you do. So, again, can you see how you'd start to really pay much more attention to someone who spent the time to do this, who basically was putting themselves out there so you'd get to know a bit about them first before you are asked to buy stuff, before you're asked to really even hand over your name and email address. It just makes a ginormous difference with your Facebook ads and a massive difference with your marketing funnel. And when you do this right, it's not like you're constantly having to put this out there. When you map this out and you do it right, it can just run automatically. So again, be sure to download the Facebook strategy checklist that goes with today's podcast, as well as the outline for the PACE-UP, so that you can start thinking about, how could I even just use this in the next email that I send? How could I think about how to use this as I might do my next Facebook ad? And I'll go a bit deeper into the final phase 3, offer more, and what kind of content you'll want to create in that phase in the next podcast episode. So be sure that you don't miss that. And if you know somebody who has tried to launch something or is trying to get people to a webinar or, to watch videos or anything like that and has used Facebook ads or is trying to put together, an opt-in or something, will you do me a favor and just share this series with them? Because I really am putting this together because I have seen so many people who struggle with this, and I want to get this information out there that it is doable. It does take a little bit different approach than what a lot of people are teaching. I don't actually see hardly anyone talking about this approach to Facebook ads and even to marketing funnels. And so if you know somebody who's been struggling with that, will you just shoot them a link to this, or shoot them an email with a link to this so that they can listen to it and maybe just have that aha moment where they're like, okay, I'm just going to try this one thing and see how it works. I would super, super appreciate it, and I'm sure they would too. All right, I will see you next week where we will talk about Offer More. See you then.